Hello world of YouTube, welcome to another end of the year list. This time we're going to be talking about my top films of 2017. Now I do apologize for getting this out a day late. This weekend was incredibly hectic and I didn't get the chance to really sit down and hash out this list, but it did give me a chance to think about doing this list more, which was also a really good thing. I decided to, instead of doing a top 11 like I originally planned, to just do a top 6 because while I did see a lot more films this year than I typically do in a given calendar year, I don't think I saw enough to warrant doing a full-fledged top 11. So we're going to cut it down, condense it, all that sort of stuff. But I do want to give a shout out to one film before we get into the list because it was just edged out by something that actually happened really recently. And that's a film that no one's really talked about that came out this year. It kind of slipped under the radars, oddly enough, given that it's a sequel to a big film on the internet, and that's Trainspotting 2. It's the only other movie I bought that's come out this year. I really loved this thing. I thought it was shot beautifully. I thought Danny Boyle actually did a really good job directing this thing. I think the cast is in full form, and I think it does what a good sequel does, and that's properly continue the story even if it takes place a couple decades after the original. I like that it extends the philosophy of the first film. I think the cast is in top form, and it's just overall a really good film that everyone slept on. None of the reviewing community talked about that film that I follow anyway, and it's upsetting because it was really good, and I heard that some of them were hyped about it, so yeah. Go check it out if you haven't seen it, you know, Trainspotting 2. There was a lot of movies I wanted to see that I didn't get to by the time of the year's end. Good Time, Thor, a lot of movies in November. Thor, Roman J. Esquire, Lady Bird, other movies like Lego Batman movie. There were a lot of movies that came out this year that I didn't get the chance to see, and it bums me out. But I saw enough to justify a top 6. So let's get into it. While I do see the flaws in the film, I don't think they're as critically faltering as others make it out to be. You know, I'm trying to talk about this very lightly because this film is still relatively new. It's hot and spicy, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's a great film. I think Rian Johnson's character as a director shines well. I don't think he fucked up Star Wars like some people are making it out to be. I think the story's great. I think it looks great. I think the characters are great. Where they take the characters is really interesting. I like that others that didn't have much of a chance to shine in The Force Awakens shine more here. I like that it feels like an actual journey. I like that I did not know what was happening as far as where the story was going to go throughout the entire story, and I liked that. It felt very Rian Johnson-esque, and that's why I enjoyed it. But if you haven't seen it, go see it, because I did thoroughly enjoy this. A lot more than I actually thought I would, given such a split reaction from the audience. But I did. I enjoyed this. I feel like if you like Star Wars, you might like this to some degree, but I was more entranced with this than I was Rogue One and The Force Awakens by a decent amount, and I loved The Force Awakens, and I still love The Force Awakens, but I like this a bit more than that. So, yeah. Do I love it as much as the first film? Not quite, but only because it's really hard to recapture the magic of seeing the first film for the first time with these characters. But I do like that they focused more on some of the minor characters in the first film. I like that they fleshed out some of the other side characters in the film more. I like that it felt like a continuation of a group piece while also focusing on some of the main players from the first film, like Star-Lord. I like the villain. I like the set pieces. I still like that it's a comedy. I like that it's a space opera comedy that does really well with its comedy and balances it out with the drama well. I think it's a great, better fleshed out story than the first one because they don't have to introduce much in this one. I think it's a good continuation. It also does what a proper sequel should. This is not the last time I'm going to say that, but I won't be saying it for the next one, and that's because it's... I thought I would like this movie more than but I still really enjoyed this movie. I think Jordan Peele does this shtick very well. I like that it is such a true classic-styled horror movie, and I mean that because it has commentary. And that's a great thing about a lot of earlier horror films is that they were commentary. This is also commentary, even if it's very heavily handed and ham-fisted. I don't mind it in this case because it is such a poignant topic to talk about, and I think it's handled beautifully here. The movie is shot well. I like the story that Jordan Peele decided to actually sit and tell. I cannot wait to see what he does next, because while I think the last little bit of the movie is not as good as everything leading up to it, it's still a great climax to an overall fantastic movie, and I give this thing accolades till the end of time. Such a good flick, and I'm glad it's getting the recognition it deserves. I liked that this was subversion of superhero movies, even though I love superhero movies. I like that it's the end of an era. I like the send-off that they send to this era of X-Men films, and it's fitting given the way that the X-Men franchise is probably going to be ending up now that it's in the hands of Disney. I love the performances in this movie, not just from the mainstays. I think the kid, X-23, is a phenomenal actress in this movie. She doesn't say much, but she doesn't need to. She's a really good expressive actress. I think fucking Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart are just amazing in this. I think that they perform better than they have in any of the other films in this franchise. I like their relationship. I like how they bounce off of each other. I think the dialogue in this movie is great. And it almost blows my mind that this is directed by the same guy who did the Wolverine, because this is shot so much better than the Wolverine, if you ask me. I think that this is miles above a lot of other X-Men movies, and I'm saying this as a huge fan of the X-Men. I love the way this movie's handled. I like what it's trying to say, while also being a really good movie. It's commentary, but it's not done in a way that's in poor taste, like there were in some instances on some of the other movies on this list. I think it's a good movie. I think it's really good. This is an immaculate film. It is well worth the almost 3-hour runtime. I think the cast is in top form. I've never seen any of Denis Villeneuve's other films, but I bought Arrival recently, and I'm planning on watching it soon and scooping up the rest of his filmography if it is as quality as Blade Runner 2049, because holy shit. Like The Last Jedi and like Trainspotting 2, this does what a proper sequel should, but not in the same way. It has the same experience, the same journey, the same twists and turns that were in the first Blade Runner, but a little differently. And it progresses it in a really natural way, and it tells a similar story in a very different way, and I like that. Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford are in top form here. I actually like Jared Leto's performance in this, which, if you know me, you know I fucking hate Jared Leto, and he was good in this. I was shocked by how much I enjoyed this movie. I know I would have liked it because I like Blade Runner, I like science fiction, I like the style and aesthetic of Blade Runner, so I knew I would like this, but I was shocked at how much I like this. The soundtrack, the score of this thing is beautiful. Every single frame of this movie is like a painting. It is just a true experience in the cinematic form, and I loved it. I absolutely loved this movie. I will be buying it. I will be pushing it to everybody I know that'll sit through a 3-hour movie, because it's fucking worth it. No, I don't feel conflicted putting this here. I know other friends of mine who are Edgar Wright fans like this film, but I have watched and rewatched Baby Driver so many times, and I still just enjoy it every single time I watch it. Is it as deep as Blade Runner? Hell no. It doesn't come close to being as philosophical as Logan or Blade Runner or Get Out or even Guardians of the Galaxy 2 to an extent, because even that movie has some nice character arcs and conversation to have. But Baby Driver was just such a fun movie. It's shot beautifully. The editing in this is still up to that standard that Edgar Wright sets himself on. I liked the cast in this. Even the ones that have come under fire this year, which fucking broke my heart. But the acting in this is still good. The writing is sharp. The story has a lot of panache, as does a lot of this film. A lot of this film is just tasteful style. There's a lot of this movie that just resonated personally with me on a level that I know Edgar Wright wasn't intending. There was just a lot of this film that I like. It's definitely probably one of my favorite compilation soundtracks to come out in a while. I really like the selection of music on this thing. I like that it ties a huge part in the movie. And I like the other cast as well. John Hamm. I liked John Hamm before. I love John Hamm after seeing this movie. I think he puts in a great performance. I don't know why I really liked his performance in this, but I did. I genuinely loved John Hamm in this movie. And I think he, along with Ansel Elgort and even Jamie Foxx to a degree, put in just brilliant performances. And I love this movie. I love it so much. It's one I can't stop watching, and it fulfills the statement that I feel like Edgar Wright needs to keep making movies. I just am hyped to see what he has next, and I'm hyped that that film was as good as I was hoping it was going to be. It fulfilled all of my expectations, even with its flaws that people point out that I can agree with. I still enjoy this movie in spite of that. But that's my list. My top 11 or my top 6 films of 2017. Hopefully you enjoyed it. What are some of your favorite films? What are you mad at me for putting on this list or not? Let me know. And next week, it will be released on time, my of the year albums list. Something I know some of you, if not a lot of you, are very excited for. So get hyped for that. I have been Viral Rack. You guys are good days, lessons, situations, and I'll see you next week.